welcome to another session of the Sea of Glass. Tonight we're going to try to explain you what is sinful and try to make you understand the greatest power of what is a great sin. Sin is not something of the physical part of it, not like what religion is. You know, they had adultery as your sex of the. This is not what a sin is. A sin is to contradict the Lord your God. And this is why you have to read the Old Testament to know what sins are. You cannot understand sin, because when you sin against the Lord, that's the only thing the Lord worried about. And this is why you have to worship one God. Because this is the only commandment that you have, in the New Testament, is to understand the two first commandments. Don't worship an image of any man before the Lord your God. Worship one God. And try to understand that the sin of worshiping a false God is a very serious sin. Go ahead, Rita.
Okay, today we're going to be reading from the book of Leviticus, and we'll start with the greatest commandment of all, okay? The commandments of the Lord are based on the fact that we all must come to understand our own sin. We have a heart that is not always clean towards other people. We are animals in our feelings, and we must learn to understand the place inside each one of us where we are not allowed to feel and act like an animal. This is what the Lord is trying to put in the human spirit. The understanding of his own value as an intelligent human being above the animal. This is why God, the Son, common sense, brings the human race to the power above the animal. You must come to understand that as a person, when you do wrong, you must kill your animal being to understand our spiritual being in the sanctuary of your soul. This is why we become spiritual in our understanding that we are above the animal being.
You see, this is the understanding of the real sin now. Understand well, we're animal. And an animal, with his feelings of the animal, does not sin. All the physical things that you do, unless you do evil to others, unless you cannot love others, living your life as the understanding of your physical self is not sinful. It's the understanding of the spiritual side. If you don't love someone, that becomes spiritual. You see what I mean? You have to understand that the sins are spiritual. They're not physically. And you have to separate what is a sin from what is not a sin. They claim that adultery is the understanding of our sexuality. It's not true. You feel and what you feel, and you don't have to be married to have sex with a partner. You have to understand the greatest power of all, that you are free but you also have the intelligence that you have, so sins become physical. Why would God didn't put sins on the animals? Because he didn't put them there, because they're not sinful. You understand that's not the sinful of the physical part of you, but it's the sense of the spiritual part. If you don't like someone, that's spiritual. If you mistreat someone, that's spiritual. Everything that is spiritual is, and you break these commandments of the Lord said there's only one God. And there's only one God, and the second commandment tells us that you are not supposed to make an image of any man, of anything on earth, and worship no idols. Everything that you do in life is a spiritual sin. Now, the Christians think that they can do anything they want, in spiritual. That's not true. This is not the truth. The truth is, you have to look at yourself in the spiritual side of yourself and love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul. And then, spiritually now, you must love your brother as yourself, spiritually. This is all spirit. Now, if you have a fight with someone and you hit him on the mouth, you know, see, this is what is physical. Physical is not spiritual. You know, the real power here is to understand what is a sin and what is not a sin. Now, you see, I look at the world and I look at the people that I grew up with, and everything was a sin. Everything. They made everything a sin, and religion does that. They made everything a sin because they don't understand the Scriptures. The Scriptures is meant for a spiritual value because you have received intelligence. The Lord has placed intelligence inside of you. So that's the spiritual part of it. And this is what makes sense. The physical part, you know, can do some wrong, but not really a lot of wrong. When you steal up here because you know it's wrong to take from somebody else. You know, it's a spiritual sin. It's always the sin that makes you vulnerable to be punished by the Lord. Spirit is your spirit. You see, and when you get punished, it's your spirit that gets punished. You know, let's say they put you in jail for the rest of your life. You'll feel bad about that because it's a spiritual thing not to be able to be free with your friends and your neighbors and your families. You have to be separated spiritually. It's always the spirit because you have received intelligence above the animal. So you have to come to understand the spiritual side. Animals don't sin. Why? Because they're animal. Their feelings are holy. And same thing with a human being. Your feelings is holy, but if you take it away, it becomes spiritually. And this is where sin comes in. Sin was not invented for the animal, was invented for people because we think and we know and we have feelings and the understanding of God and the presence of God inside of us. Okay, Rita, read some more.
You must come to understand that you are responsible for your hate towards others, as well as your misunderstanding of their deeds. Know that in your own sanctuary, you need the blood of the animal to sprinkle around the altar. Blood here means understanding. You must understand the blood of your own animal before you can judge anyone in the same value as you judge yourself.
Yeah, what is the blood of the animal now? This is your physical part. Every time they talk about the blood, and you got to sprinkle the blood around the altar. In other words, check what is spiritual and try to understand that men having sex with a woman cannot be a sin because that's feelings and it's love and it's power and everything else. You don't have to be married to have sex with a woman. You know, you don't have to be married to anybody. That's the dumbest thing on earth, is you have to stand in front of a man and he has to approve your love. That's not true. Love is to be able to love one another and live with the commandment of truth inside of you. God is the truth, and you have to live to that truth because God gave you the truth. He didn't give the animal the truth. You know? Well, if an animal go and fight with another animal, well, they're just fighting, you know, and they don't have no sense inside of them. You know, if you did wrong to someone, an animal has the power to understand what is wrong and what is right because he can, but he cannot think about it and like we do. So the spirit is what is the understanding of sin. Try to understand that animal does not sin, and the human being, your animal, does not sin. It's the spirit that sins. Okay, Rita, here's some more.
All the laws of God are really based on the two teachings: to love the Lord your God with all your heart and soul, and to love your brother as yourself. Understand that loving your brother as yourself is to be fair and just in the teaching of the Lord regarding people who live in total arrogance. You try to save your soul, but you have forgotten about your own sin while you were thinking of the sin of others, and you did not perform this ritual of your sin offering. You think that religion will forgive your sin, but it is only the Lord who can forgive your sin, not any organized religion of human knowledge. You are only forgiven when you go through the ritual of sprinkling the false understanding of your sin around your own temple, not where you go to feel better about yourself by accusing others about you, before you.
Try to understand here. This is the understanding of a real sin right there. You know, you sprinkle the blood of the animal around. This is just the blood of the animal. The understanding that comes out of it from a human being is much higher than just the blood of the animal. You have the blood of the animal inside of you, so you have the feelings of the animals. But the understanding of the above of it is to understand that, you see, religion made all these things sinful because they wanted to own you. And, you know, they wanted you to collect in their money and all that. But it's not what it is. You know, you see, they form religion based on physical more than spiritual. You know, and you got to understand that the animal does not sin. It's the spirit that said. When the spirit jumped out of the contents of God and the truth, they fall into sin, because the sin is what you believe. If you believe that it's all right to kill a person, then you kill him, and you don't think nothing of it. Well, you see, this is where the spirit has been hurt there. The spirit has lost its taste in justice, and you can kill people for the purpose. Well, you say, well, in war you have the right to kill people. No, you don't have the right to kill people. This is what government people tell you, that you can kill the enemy. But it's not what it's all about, because there's all of these sin that comes afterwards. You know, if you look at the Civil War, I mean, people were miserable. They didn't have no more food. They didn't have any more. People of the South was terrible. You know, they live in the agony of defeat. They was in the worst agony of all, and they could not understand why. And they just blamed the government, they blamed the people that caused the war. But you have to blame yourself. You were the one that sent. You were the one that took, you know. Let's say you can blame the president for starting a war. You can blame anyone for starting a war. But if you believe in that war and you believe in killing your fellow man, then you are going to sin. It's a spiritual sin. It's not the murder itself that does it. It's what you think and what you feel inside of you. You think that it's all right to kill people. It's not all right to kill people. It's not all right, because the law, the Ten Commandments was giving in spiritual terms. And you have to, if you don't want to kill nobody, believe me, it won't get into your spirit. But you start killing people, next thing you know, you think it's all right. You don't get punished for it, you know. Then come the day that you get punished for it, then you feel bad about it. But the thing is, you have to come to understand that a sin is not the physical part of you, it's the spiritual part of you. Try to understand that and read the Old Testament so you can come to understand what is a sin. I read the Old Testament for the best part of my life. Try to understand the real laws of God. And the laws of God are all spiritual, believe me. And if you read the Old Testament, you'll come to understand what a sin is. Okay, go ahead, Rita.
Going to church every week on Sunday morning is just about the worst of all man's teachings, because it does nothing to save your soul. You can kneel there in front of the authors of false religion all you want, but the power to receive the true Lord is in your soul. It is the power to understand the real ritual of the Lord that tells you that you must understand your own sin before you judge yourself and anyone else of doing wrong in your mind and soul. The power of the human being is to understand and worship the Lord in your own soul. But if you choose to keep your animal skin, excuse me, but if you choose to keep your animal skin and believe in an understanding of the animal in a cave of falsehood, you will never worship God there in the proper way of the laws that He gave us.
You see, worshiping God is respecting the laws of God. That's worshiping God now. In all common sense, in all reality, that's where you're sent, because you do not believe what God has said. They tell you, well, you're not supposed to kill people, but you say, well, no, I can go to war and kill people all I want. Or if somebody bothers me in life, I can kill him. You see, these are the things that comes inside of you that is not from the Lord. This is your own conviction of your own acts of what is sinful is. You know, you think that you don't do no wrong if you hurt someone else. Sure you do, because they were giving life, you were giving life, and it's not up to you to take their life. And that's the way it is. And I don't care what anybody said. You know, they tried to take war out of it, and it's not true, because you start killing people. I mean, you got to continue killing people. And look at World War II, how much people? 53,000 people, million people. 53 million people died in that war. For what? Because man has lost total respect for other people. We think that the Germans were evil. We think the Chinese were evil. You think the understanding of that, but it's not that. The Japanese were evil. Everybody is evil but you. And this is where the sin is. You know, you got to understand that you're not as good as anybody else, and you're not better than anybody else. You got to come to understand that what you understand inside you, I keep on repeating that, you must understand, because this is where the great common sense of intelligence lives inside of you. It's the power to understand what is wrong and what is right. And if you take wrong and wash it away in the stupidity of false religion, then it becomes wrong, because you lost your soul. This is where you lose your soul there. You lose your soul at, thinking that you can think for yourself. Your spiritual side has to be kept clean at all times. And that's where because this is where all things starts. If you're going to kill a man, you got to take your spirit and wash it away. You cannot kill unless you start believing that it's all right. If you kill someone in self-defense to defend your own self, that's a different story. But you've got to understand that the greatest power of human thinking is first inside of you. Don't hate no one. Don't do wrong to no one. And I don't think that, I'm 77 years old. I never had a fight with anyone. I don't believe in hurting people. And see, this is where it all sticks to, that if you don't believe in hurting people, and some people that are stronger than others, they feel that, oh, I can hurt them a little bit. You know, this is not true. Next thing you know, you're going to do something wrong to someone, and you'll lose yourself in it. And that's where the Lord God comes in. You got to understand that not loving your brother as yourself. You know, if you love yourself, you like to live. It's the same thing with them. They love to live. And they don't want to be killed by anybody. And you don't want to be killed by anybody. So why don't you love your brother as yourself? This is the way we are. We are. Now, there's some people that lost it, and then they start saying, oh, I wish I died, you know. But that's not the purpose. See, this is where you lose your soul. You lose your soul in believing outside the laws. And then once you leave that, then you begin to believe. And then the Lord places a lot of stuff on you when you take matters into your own hand and change the situation of your feelings. Well, what happened? You're going way out and you're breaking the greatest power of yourself that the Lord has made you into it. You got to understand the greatest glory of intelligence here is to be able to understand what is a sin and why that we sin spiritually, because spirit is what controls into physical. Go ahead, Rita.
So what can you do when you offend someone that you have done wrong? Okay, so you bring an offering to the Lord. An offering is to look in your soul to see what you have done wrong using the 3 laws: justice, fairness, and unity. You will then begin to understand that there is only one God, and that one God will send you the proper ritual to worship him in the most homage way to understand the true religion of the heart. That's what I like to call what we do here, the true religion of the heart. The true religion of the heart will tell you how to worship God, not in some cave, but in a spiritual value inside your soul. Understand that you must stand up in your own soul for the dignity of worshiping one holy God who teaches you to do right in the justice and fairness of your soul, and then to unite people in your own soul where one is just as important as the other.
Yeah, try to understand here. I always say that because this is understanding is your spirit. Once you don't understand something, and you think, well, I've conquered it, and I can kill people, I can do anything I want, I can talk about people, I can do anything I want. You see, this is where the conviction that's inside of you destroy your feelings. Next thing you know, those feelings are totally destroyed. And when those feelings are destroyed inside of you, you come to the understanding of the greatest power of all. What is a sin now? A sin is what you are, your conviction brought to the understanding that is right. Bring to that conviction of what is right, and because before you used to think that what is right is what is right. Now you think what is wrong is right, and that makes it a sin. Just to think about it is a sin. If you say you hate someone and you wish you could kill him because you don't want to kill him because of the law, but you see, that's a conviction. This is what you're being convicted of. The Lord convict you inside yourself, and next thing you know, you have a fight with this guy and you kill him. You see, this is where the conviction of yourself becomes power. Then you have to go to jail for the rest of your life, and you're miserable, and you did everything. You see, once you do something against the laws of all man and God, you will come to understand that your punishment has to be done in the glory of your intelligence. You have to come to the conviction of yourself to understand that this is what you should not do, and you keep that inside yourself forever. Never hurt no one. Do wrong to no one. Don't, take another man's job because you think you're better than him. You see, all of these things are part of you. You go there and you take, and you say, well, I'm always right, and these people are wrong. These people are the people that hurts me. It's you that hurts yourself, you idiot. You got to come to the understanding that you are inside yourself a person that does not believe in the true laws of God. And that's why it comes to understand. Love your brother as yourself. What does that mean, love your brother as yourself? You don't hurt people when you love them. I have a lot of people around me that I don't like, and I will not tell you that these people, they come around for the purpose, but you got to love them as they are. That's it. It's not the same love when you have people that comes to you and try to make you do wrong. Love is a very, free understanding word. Love means to respect the life of everybody. Respect not just their life, but their attitude and their feelings and their understanding. Try to understand that inside these people that does wrong to others, inside these people, there's a very confusing stage of understanding there. And if you cannot understand that, you have to go through the greatest power of all is to understand the glory of its intelligence. Come to understand what is a sin and what is not a sin. You will come to understand the greatest glory of all value. God is the truth. If you break that truth, you break the greatest power of all because you turn yourself against the truth. And that's what makes it a sin. A sin is not something that you just do as a physical thing, but it's a sin is a thing that you do in spirit before it becomes physical. And that's why it's not the physical that's the worst sin, it's the spiritual that's the worst sin. Go ahead.
Okay, this little part here that I'm going to read is short, and it explains exactly what Roger said. You must understand that by learning about God through His Word, you will come to understand who you are and why God has created you. When you practice the true ritual of the Lord, you practice inside your soul the power to accept everybody. You have the power of not judging anybody in front of you. This is your sin offering to the Lord. Now we go on. Now we come to the guilt offering, where your heart must be clean to come to the table of the Lord. This is where you come across that table to understand your own guilt and what makes sense inside of you. A human being sees knowledge of his guilt offering in this ritual to understand what is right and what is wrong. This is the power to worship in your own soul, where you would be seen in front of the Lord. You must clean your own soul before you try to clean others' soul.
You see, that's the greatest power of all. I tell you, this is really the truth right there. And even though I wrote that, you have to come to understand that, I was given to that, to understand that. Because this is what is. If you fare with others, the Lord will give you the right ideas. This is what the Lord is. Gives you the ideas to love. And what is love now? Love is not to hurt anyone. Love is not to do wrong to anyone. That's what love is. You see an Indian or a black person in your way or someone that you don't like. You cannot do that. You cannot have people that you don't like. Everybody's going to be the same. And this is what it's all about. There's no different race. There's no different religion. I believe in the religion of the Lord, me. And if you want to believe in the Christianity or Catholicism, that's up to you. But it's not up to me. Because me, I believe in the truth first, and I live with the truth of the Lord. This is the conviction that I bring to myself, to come to understand that you will come to the greatest glory of intelligence, because it's when you can love your brother as yourself, without judging them, without making any sense. You see, I can't tell you that another religion is evil, but I can tell you that there's something wrong with it. Something wrong with these religions on earth. And you look at it, next thing you know, you say, what is wrong with me? It's the religion that's inside of you that makes people different from you. It's not because you're different from them, but it's a religion that makes you, I look at myself and I'm a good person in front of the Lord. But then you look at them and say, look how evil they are. This is not what it is. The greatest power is to look at yourself and say, I am the conviction of my own soul. So come to understand that the Lord has given me what I am. I am what I am, but you can change what you are into a person of the greatest value of all. It's to love your brother as yourself. And he could be a Catholic, he could be a Christian, he could be anything he wants. But he could be a Muslim, he can be anything that he wants. But you got to understand that religion is the greatest killer of all. It kills the feelings of brotherhood. And that's what's wrong with it. Every time you look at your brother in different faith, don't feel good for yourself that you understand perfectly. Just try to love people as what they are. If they were never taught anything else but to be Catholic, tough luck. That's what it is. And if you can, you got to love. And this is what the kingdom of God will come to be. People that accept other people. There's no religion there. There won't be no religion. There won't be, people will all be the same color because we're going to the same color as we come now. You can see, racial marriage all over the place. People are getting married all over the world. The whole world is meddling into a new way of understanding each other. And you're going to come to understand you won't have black people and white people. You'll have all kinds of good people. There'll be good and evil people. But the thing is, the greatest power of all, it's to be good. Like they say, it's not to look good, it's not to feel good, but the whole point is to be good. And that's what it is. You don't have to feel like them. You don't have to feel that you hate them because you don't have to do that. The thing is, God has made us all together in a world that we are all together, and we need to love one another. And that's what it is. Love the greatest power of yourself for the glory of all intelligence, and you will come to be known in the understanding of this great glory of God. See, God is the spirit of intelligence that lives inside of us. It's the truth. And you also have the common sense. That's also part of intelligence. And then you have reality. It has to be part of intelligence. If something happened somewhere where you witness it, you have to say what happened because that's reality. See, all these teachings are really part of the truth. And if you did something wrong to someone, admit it. There's nothing wrong. I made a mistake. I did this, I did that. But you got to understand that the conviction of God is within your soul. It's to really come to understand that, come to feel a person of the reality of the truth. Truth will set you free. It set me free from all religion. It set me free from all hate of other people. It set me free, and it can do the same thing to each one of us. God is the truth, and He's also common sense. And that's what God is. You believe that, and He's also reality. What happened should be said exactly as it would happen. God is the truth. Go ahead.
Next, we come to the part of the book of Leviticus where the idea of brotherhood comes from the Lord Himself. So you can come to understand the fellowship offering of the power of one human being over your own self. Understand well these three great laws. The first great law is to worship the Lord your God with all your soul. This means you cannot worship any other God created by the mind of man. I agree that Jesus was a great prophet, but I cannot worship the idea of a human being in front of the Lord.
See, that's very important. This is what happened to religion. In the 3rd century, when they had this big ecumenical council, they designated Jesus the Son of God. And that was the biggest lie on earth. And it's been like that for the last 1,700 years. Because you got to understand here that if the people above you teach you, you believe them. And this is where it's wrong. This is where religion comes to be wrong here. They made a big mistake, 17 years ago, and it's still here with us. But they did worship Jesus, the Son of God, before that. But that's when they designated, and then what happened is it became the law. And the law of man are not the laws of God. And this is what happened. You know, the people designated Jesus to be the Son of God, but it doesn't mean that he is the Son of God. The Son of God is that God is the truth, and common sense is the Son that comes from the truth. And that's what it means. It means that you have to understand that, you know, the Son of God is the Son. And since Jesus did represent, you know, if you want to really understand the life of Jesus on earth, you understand that God has made him as the fruit of the understanding. So the parable was sent into the world by God to make sense to all of us. And Jesus spoke the parable. It's the same thing. I wrote this book here. It doesn't make me God. It makes me an understanding of God that gives you the power to love the Lord your God with all your soul. You have to come to open inside of you the greatest glory of human intelligence that's inside of you. And that is to be able to love your brother as yourself. This is what the greatest commandment is. Love God, and then it doesn't say to love Jesus here. It says, love God, the Lord your God, the Father of intelligence, the creator of man, and then to love your brother as yourself. You love Jesus as your brother. Don't love Jesus as an equal to God, because it's a great sin. And you got to understand that that great sin is the greatest sin on earth, because everybody accepted Buddhists accept Buddhists as the Son of God. You know, the Muslim accept, you know, Muhammad. But that's not what it is. You got to understand that you have to understand that Christians have made themselves a God also. So you got to understand that all these religions are not teaching the truth. They're not teaching you to understand from your own spirit. And that's what's not true. They understand from their spirit away of understand. And when they translate it into yourself, you make yourself a person that does not follow the laws of God. You follow the laws of man. Be careful with that, because I tell you, it's a great, great sin to worship Jesus or to worship Buddhists or to worship Muhammad in front of the Lord your God. You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to worship, there's only one God in heaven, and that is the Lord your God, and he's the Spirit of truth, common sense, and reality. This is what it means. It means you cannot take a spiritual value and turn it into a physical value like Christianity did. You know, they used that Jesus was, you know, conceived by God. It's not true. You got to understand that when it's not true, you believe it, it's a sin. You know, you cannot believe what is not true. You got to understand. Me, I believe everything that is true because I live with it. I'm trying to understand inside myself that the truth is more important than anything else on earth. And that's what I'm going to believe until I die. And if, you know, if I lose my soul, I lose my soul. But the thing is, I love the Lord my God with all my soul. And I don't think the Lord is going to reject me for that. You know, because it's not sinful to love God, but it's sinful to love and worship another God before the Lord your God. You're not supposed to, if you read the Old Testament, you're not supposed to offer anything. And what does Christian do? They offer all their offering to Jesus. That's wrong. It tells you they're not supposed to use another God and offer sacrifice to it. You know, your sacrifice is yours. Believe it, you know. And try to understand the greatest glory of human thinking here. It's to be able to love the Lord your God with all your soul. And then turn around and love your brother as yourself. That's all it is. This is the greatest power of the salvation of man. You want to be safe? This is what you got to do. You haven't got nothing, and the Lord will keep you in all the new life that's to come. God is the truth, and the truth will set you free. Go ahead, Rita.
The second great law that is equal to the first one is to love your brother outside of arrogance, where your soul must love each man, whether he has done any good in this or in wrongdoing. You cannot bring a man down below the earth because he has done something wrong in his life. The wrongdoer is the one that should be appreciated the most and brought in to the simple value of a man and must be kept inside the human race, because there is no such thing in the human race that you can call evil. Evil is only mentioned by the Lord your God to see the difference between a lie and the truth.
You see, this is what it is. You understand that what we call good and evil on earth, what do we call the good and evil on earth? It's the understanding of evil. If somebody kills some, but then you go to war and you see all these people all dead around you, and you took part in it. You know, where is the good and evil now? Where is that? Then you look at yourself and you say, why did I follow the stupidity of these people? I didn't have to come here. No, they forced me to come here. Oh, no. You were drafted to go there and kill people. But you can live in the different ways. You can always choose your own, circumstance of evidence. You always can bring the Lord to you and say, God, I can't, if I have to go to war, I'll go to war. But I ain't going to kill people. I'm not going to destroy the life of others. I'm going to be one person with the truth. And if you say, well, try to understand that why that there's war. You see, if you don't pray against war, there will be war. But you have to pray and say, that's one thing that I pray a lot against war, because I don't like wars. I don't like see people kill each other, because it is wrong to destroy. And look at all the wars we had. Thousands and thousands. World War II took 53 million people. 53 million people who died in that war. Now, that's a lot of sin. That's a lot of sin on both sides. But because the German were just as human as the American, and the American just as killed as many Germans as everything was done in the churches, and it was all done. And the Lord permitted to happen for the purpose of sin and good people. The only understanding here is to be able to understand the way the Lord works. And believe me, if you had any conviction that you didn't want to go to war, the Lord will keep you out of it. He won't send you into it. You're going to have some kind of disease that will not match the same. And you won't have to kill nobody. That's the way the Lord will protect you from sin. You got to understand that a lot of people didn't go to war. Most people went to war because they were perfect. Perfect people are always the ones to do the imperfect deed. The greatest power to understand is to understand what makes a human being so far, I got to use the word here, so power to deserve his own soul. It's hard to understand that, but it's easy. You become a person with very small value when you're king that killing people is a good way of life. I tell you, we're not meant to kill each other. We're meant to leave each other, live in peace with each other. I lived my whole life without ever having a gun. I never had a gun. I never would use a gun. I never had a big knife that I needed to hit people with. And I don't think I never used an axe on nobody, because I always believe that the truth is the greatest power of all, is to respect other people's life. And if you do that, for some reason, the Lord kept me out of all the conflicts of life. I got mad at people sometimes, people that did evil to me. But I turn around, walk away from it, and let them be what they want to be. And I didn't associate with them because they didn't want nothing to do with me. So, okay, but that's the way you should be. Don't worry about it. You don't have to be a man that always settle your problem by hurting people. You don't need to. I didn't need to, and you don't need to. Believe me, if you live in peace, you will live in peace with everybody, and peace is given to you. Okay, we're going to read some more.
The third great law is to unite all your brothers. If you love your brother with an evil heart or by an evil deed, you cannot determine the difference between good and evil because you don't have the understanding of the Lord to determine the power of what is true and what is evil as a human being. None of us has the power to determine the laws of good and evil. We, as children of God, are only human, and we only have our human understanding. This is why we are not allowed This is why we are not allowed to bring the power of good and evil with the intention of judging anyone else, because this is the person of Adam and Eve, mind and spirit, where the serpent fools your mind by making you think that you can determine good and evil.
You see, I like that. That's the part that I like the most. The serpent that comes in tries to make you feel. We do have the angel of evil inside of us. You know, God placed it that because he could not place good if there was no evil. So God, in order to create us in all intelligence, there has to be two sides to each story. Like a house got to have a back and a front, and the left side and the right side. See, everything that was created by man or by God has to have all the sides on it. And, you know, you see, even myself sometimes, I felt some evil, and I remember that, and I asked the Lord to forgive me for it. But the thing is, you got to understand here that you were created that way. You were created to get mad at other people. You were created to do wrong as well as right, because you have two sides to you, and you were made like that. And you gotta understand that the greatest power here is to understand that when you do some evil, you have to record it inside yourself and say, I will not do that again. You know, I never had to do anything in my life that I remember to hurt anyone. And I never did hurt anyone. You know, I had children, and I raised them as best as I can, tried to make them look good, you know, tried to do good. And you see, it's not to feel good, it's not to look good, but it's to be good that's important. And once you do that, you come to understand the greatest glory of all. What is good? Good is not just being one perfect person. Sometimes good you have to do against the other person's way of understanding in order to make him see himself. So that is also good too, you know. And once you do, sometimes you get mad at someone, you do him a favor, because you have to understand the greatest glory that you love people, but you don't like people when they do wrong to you either, you know. So if you want to love people that does wrong to you, you got to give him a little hard stuff sometime too, because it's part of you to understand the greatest glory of all human intelligence. God is the truth, and you will love to see the truth of the Lord inside your heart. Go ahead, Rita.
Remember that all human deeds that are done in rage, or where your mind and soul are lost, they cannot explain the wrong they have done. For this reason, a man is not allowed to judge what made him do it. Only the Lord knows what made him do it. This is where human beings go to become clean in the fellowship offering to the Lord. If you do not clean yourself, and keep yourself clean, then your uncleanness is what makes you commit crimes of passion. And after the crime is committed, you cannot explain what was in your soul when you committed the crime, because it was something that was unclean inside of you that made you commit that crime.
Now, I want to talk about cleanness. You got to clean your soul all the time. I mean, I felt angry at someone in my life. I do. Everybody did. You know, someone did something to me that was not fair, you know, and you feel angry at him. See, that's an uncleanness there. In order to love people as what they are, you got to learn to clean yourself. Don't keep it inside of you, keep a grudge forever and ever, because the Bible tells you don't hold a grudge to nobody. Because you got to understand that a grudge is an evil spirit that gets inside of you. And when that grudge is in there, you can do almost anything to serve that grudge. Because you think that a grudge is what you should be, and you think that these people did not do what was meant to be done. The greatest power of human thinking that there is try to understand that the Lord God of all is to be able to convict inside yourself what is the truth. And why would you keep something that's not true inside of you? You know, if you want to beat a person up, you know, that's not true. You don't have to beat nobody and hurt anybody. You know, you watch a movie where revenge is almost like it's holy or something. But revenge does not mean, revenge belongs to the Lord. It does not belong to us. So, you know, if someone does something evil to you, you know, I had people, you know, lie to the police against me. You know, I have all kinds of different things. But the thing is, they tried to save themselves there. And that is evil. But you got to understand that these things will happen to you. And so you got to be the conviction of the truth there. Bring the conviction of truth inside yourself and say, you cannot do that because these are human beings. You know, and sometimes you have to do it because, you know, if you don't do it, they won't be able to understand what they did. So if you let them get away with it, it's just as bad as not as forgive them. You're not supposed to forgive people of everything that they do that's wrong to you. You're supposed to let them know. You're supposed to let them know that it was wrong for them to do that. You know, people go and do all kinds of different things, you know, and they think it's right for them to do that because they can blame you for what they did. Well, the thing is, the Lord God knows that, and He knows that. And you got to understand that the revenge belongs to the Lord. You cannot use it for yourself, you know. And you got to come to the greatest power of all, that what they did to you is because they thought it was right for them to do that, because they have never learned the truth. If people don't know the truth, they have no reason to convict you of, you know, you got to understand that, what is that? Okay, read another part, Rita.
After the crime is done, you have to face the laws of man and try to explain why you committed this crime. But even at this point, you wish you never committed that crime because your punishment is coming from the laws of man. This means that you, who judge him, are in the same value of he who committed the crime according to the unclean feelings in your heart or in your soul. You must come to distinguish between what is right and what is wrong and what you believe inside your own spirit.
Well, now this is, we've still got a couple of minutes. I want to tell you that it was a great thing to be able to listen. I'm not the greatest speaker of all, but I tried to tell you of the truth itself. And what is the truth? The truth is to be able to understand what is right and what is wrong. Because what is not true is not true. What is true is true. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll be
you
back
again.
another time.
Step into our store and discover a stunning array of dancewear. Introducing Dancingly Yours, your one-stop shop for all things dance and delight for ages 2 to 92. From tiny tutus to energetic tap shoes, our store is a treasure trove of dance essentials. At Dancingly Yours, we offer an extensive collection of dancewear and accessories that cater to all styles and levels. We carry top brands and the latest fashion trends. From ballet to hip-hop, lyrical to jazz, ballroom to liturgical, as well as gymnastics, you'll find the best selection right here at Dancingly Yours. But we're not just a store. We're a community that celebrates the joy of dance. Our expert team is passionate about dance, just like you. So we're here to assist you in finding the perfect fit. And the best part, Dancingly Yours offers competitive pricing in-store and online. Dancingly Yours, easy to get to, and worth the trip from anywhere, right on Route 10 in Plainville.
Like us on Facebook. Search Nutmeg TV.